I am talking to Ronald Rand, who at this time is starring in his own show, Let It Be Art, Harold Clurman's Life of Passion, the extraordinary life story of the elder statesman of the American theater. Do you think that people today generally, I know the young people especially, do they look upon the arts in the same way, or do they just look for the quick success and the money?
Well, what's wonderful is that because I tour my own show as Harold Clurman, and then I teach a workshop called The Art of Transformation, I come in contact with a lot of young people at a lot of festivals and colleges and universities, and they really are very enthusiastic about learning. And I find that, sure, there's going to be those who are very interested in, becoming a film star or whatever, but, because it's in their face naturally and it's exciting. But once they meet somebody like Harold Clurman and learn about the process and the craft, they truly want to learn more. And they're very, very excited. And it doesn't matter what country I go to. I mean, I was over in Zimbabwe or Belarus or Thailand.
Now, how did you get started doing that?
Well, what's wonderful is that I started acting at, I guess my father and mother saw I had something because I started imitating people when I was 3, 4 years old. So I started started learning poetry and acting when I was 5 and a half with an acting teacher, which had a stage in her own house. So I joined a professional children's theater when I was 6 and a half. And I did that for the next over 11 years. So I did about 350, 400 shows by the time I came to New York.
See, I find that many successful people, most all of them that I've spoken to, have had supportive parents.
Well, that's a wonderful idea. I wish it was incredibly true.
Well, it seems to have been true for you.
It was, but I run into a lot of other actors who I interview for the Soul of the American Actor newspaper, and they tell me that sometimes their parents haven't been that supportive.
That's interesting.
And they still find a way, but yeah, it's a mixture. It's like 50-50 sometimes, that some of say, I'm going to help you, and other ones say, are you kidding?
But I think what you just said, though, they will find a way. It's like it's like everything else. Water will find a way to get to its place. But it certainly is a hell of a lot harder than when you have somebody helping you, and giving you support mentally and with, showing you encouragement for it.
Oh, it's so wonderful to have the encouragement, and then it makes such a difference. But of course, then it becomes an even bigger responsibility. Because
you don't want to disappoint your parents.
Well, that too, but I think when you have talent, and you've got to learn how to use it. And if you can find a mentor, I mean, I was very lucky that I studied right out of high school. I knew that I was going to study with Stella Adler, and then at the same time I studied with Harold Clurman, and then I studied with Grotowski. So having those kinds of teachers certainly makes a huge difference.
I don't think I even ever heard of them people until I was already grown up. I didn't even know of them. All I did was I was always in plays. I was always cast in school, after school, children's theater, community theater. I was always cast, so I didn't really even know about learning about acting, except from doing it.
That's right. Well, that's probably the best way.
Maybe.
I mean, that's how you learn. But then you also have to, in a sense, also go further and learn a craft, learn the art of acting, because like Uta Hagen and many others say that it takes 20 years to learn how to act and then 20 years to learn how not to act.
That's correct. But I must say that now, of course, years back even, when I did study in books, never going to classes, I never could afford to really do that. But in learning about them through their writings, I have not learned anything really, really new, which means that somehow instinctively or however, I have picked up those very important lessons on the craft, and because it means so much to me that I'm a very avid studier of human nature, of people's behavior. That's what is acting if not for that?
Well, that's totally what acting is.
Yeah.
And the more you do it, the more you learn how, of course, to do it and release your inner nature. So that you can also capture the behavior of those people you bring to life on the stage.
And the wonderful thing also is to always ask the question, always on the page or off the page of people, why?
Oh, yeah.
That's to me the number one thing. Why? Why do you do that? Why did he say that? Why do they feel those things? What does it, you know?
Exactly.
And it's so wonderful.
And then you also learn how to do it in front of other people, which is absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
Because a lot of young people and a lot of people who learn how to learn a craft, they tell me time and time again how they deal with nerves, because sometimes nerves can be overwhelming for a lot of folks, and then you have to learn how to deal with those and cope with them in front of an audience. But it is challenging to learn how to relax enough.
I've never had nerves on stage. My nerves come before I get on the stage. So when I'm thinking about it, it's, oh my God, it's like a hell, especially opening night. If I can get through opening night, get on stage on opening night, I am home free.
Well, one of the things that I teach in my class, the Art of Transformation, which I've learned, is that in essence there is no stage, there is no play, because these are human beings that have to live where they have to live. So if you decide to actually begin to live as this human being in the place that's known as a dressing room, and you decide to create through your imagination that this is no longer a dressing room, but this is their environment or the given circumstances of where they're living, like let's say it's a house and this happens to be another room of the house, or wherever you happen to be coming from as this human being, you start in your imagination that process there. So in a sense, when you move from this environment as this human being to the next environment, you're not going onto a stage. You're continuing their journey. So in a sense, you don't have to think about that you're putting on a play or that you're doing something for someone else.
Well, I think if you think you're putting on a play, you're putting on yourself, and it's just not going to work. It's, being in the moment means to be in that character's skin.
That's right.
But the most wonderful thing to me also in doing these plays is that I know, unless there's some kind of a catastrophe, exactly where I'm going to be in that short period of time on that stage. It's so comforting.
Oh, it
to
is.
Have that,
it is.
It's like a nest of love in there.
That's right.
For me.
Plus, you have the other people there to live with.
I love the family of theater, too.
Yes. Oh, it means so much. I've been very, very blessed over the years to act in a lot of shows, and I continue to, not only as Harold Clurman in my play, but sometimes I'm invited to be in off-Broadway shows, and then, of course, I've done hundreds of films, and you learn how, in essence, to really relax into that particular environment with these people, and it's beautiful. It truly is. It's like we call it the art of collaboration.
Yes, which I enjoy so much.
Yeah.
How do you find film? Is that film is a different process for you?
Well, film, it's still bringing to life, being in the moment, even though the camera is right in front of you. But part of the joy is that it's also the art of behavior. And you have to be present, you have to be living. I was fortunate, to be in many, many films. I did, for example, Quiz Show, directed by Robert Redford, and I was in a scene with Ray Fiennes and Paul Scofield, and
you're getting much better than Paul Scofield.
Well,
please.
These are pretty good people.
Oh, wow!
And and then I just did one in Rome with Angelica Houston, and in that moment when you're doing what you're doing, it's the same thing. You're this person, you have to do what you've come to do, and they're doing what they're doing. So, but you also have to be aware that the camera is right in front of you, so you can't project for 1,500 people.
It's not even so much the projection and the camera being there, which I disregard, because once you're in the character, you're not much aware of that, I think. It's, some part of you has to be, because you have to somehow finagle yourself around the camera. But it's the picking up and dropping off. It's not a full going from beginning to end as is in a play, where you really have that progression of character. Where it may stop and then they're fixing a scene and they're doing something else.
Well, depending upon the takes.
The concentration, how do you keep that?
It's the focus. It's where you put energy. It's all about energy, whether it's on the stage or dealing with a camera, a film, or a TV show, and it's where you center yourself and, in a sense, what's around you, and you don't diffuse your energy or your focus. Because what are you there to do? What do you want? And in a sense, why are you there, which you just asked. And then, in a sense, where you're coming from and what's going to happen afterwards. So if you're living, present, and being there, but of course not acting, You've got
Right.
to behave,
Right.
you know, so that it's, you know, real.
I'm talking to Ronald Rand, editor of The Soul of the American Actor. I spoke to Bill Hurt for a while. We had quite a long interview. This was a couple of years